she also had her own views. She had a perfect, well-rounded view about life. She had her own opinions, strong opinions about various things, and she was happy to share them and didn't feel cowed by, wasn't scared about the public eye. She didn't care about cameras or what other people thought. She's her own woman and she was independent.
Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well and that you had a great week. As you can see, I'm in the car. You haven't seen me in here for a while, but I'm on my way out for reasons which I will explain later. To all of my house guests, grab yourselves a drink and make yourselves comfortable. If you're passing by and you'd like to become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I'm Chez, this is Chez M0i. Welcome to my place. In my observations of certain royal events over the years, I realised that Harry was not dubbed the spare merely as a euphemism, but he was literally viewed as an out-of-place inconvenience, but just convenient enough to be William's understudy. Not really knowing how he fit into this multifaceted entity, which is simultaneously an ancient institution, a corporate organisation, and his own dysfunctional family. The fiery red hair Charles despised so much on his darling boy's head should have provided a clue as to Harry's character. Saturday, the 6th of September 1997 was, I believe, when a flame was ignited in Harry's belly. Imagine being 12 years old. Imagine in 9 days' time you're about to enter your teens, one of the most challenging periods in a young person's life, and the one individual who you thought would always be there for emotional support has suddenly gone. In addition to already feeling utterly confused about what just happened, you are told that you have to walk behind your deceased mother's coffin for miles throughout the streets of London, not just in front of people lining those streets, but in front of billions of people watching on their TVs across the globe. Is it any wonder then that Harry's fire grew out of control in his late teens and 20s as he grappled with unanswered questions surrounding his mum's passing, as he grappled with things not making sense, and as he grappled with the Windsors expecting him to swiftly move on?
To make that decision to receive help is not a sign of weakness. In today's world, more than ever, it is a sign of strength.
Decades later, we see that the powers that be still viewed Harry as that conveniently inconvenient spare part, whose eyes they thought they could pull the wool over, failing to understand that he managed to control that fire so it became a less destructive force and a more constructive one, not just for his sake alone, but more importantly for the sake of the family he created with his wife who the establishment just couldn't get a handle on.
Meghan was much older, wasn't she, when she met Harry? So she was much more self-assured, she was much more confident. She'd had her life, she'd had a career. She wasn't fazed by fame. Her career was in show business, so she liked the cameras. She didn't shy away from them. So she also had her own views. She had a perfect, well-rounded view about life. She had her own opinions, strong opinions about various things, and she was happy to share them and didn't feel cowed by, wasn't scared about the public eye. She didn't care about cameras or what other people thought. She's her own woman and she was independent.
And Charlotte, the public actually celebrated that. They loved that, didn't they?
I remember writing about her when she first came on the scene thinking this woman is perfect for Harry because he solved the Chelsea problem, because this is somebody who does want fame, is good in front of the camera and like Chelsea, he's also vivacious and opinionated. So I thought this is absolutely perfect. He solved the conundrum. But of course, it was also her downfall because she was so independent. She wasn't willing to kind of fall into the royal mould.
Here are a few excerpts from a documentary which shares various perspectives about the Sandringham summit and how the institution thought that by physically separating Meghan from Harry, they believed they would succeed in weakening Harry's resolve.
Almost as soon as Meghan left, the message came from on high in the palace. Right, we've got to get the key players of the royal family on a phone call straight away. I've always had my suspicions that they waited until Meghan's plane took off from the tarmac to call that meeting. I think that they were very much focused on getting to Harry without Meghan there.
Harry needs support from someone who isn't in the room. The one person who understands what he's going through.
Meghan said very clearly in her Netflix documentary,
imagine a conversation, a roundtable discussion about the future of your life when the stakes are this high, and you as the mom and the wife and the target in many regards aren't invited to have a seat at the table.
and I have to say on that, I sort of agree with her. In the end, they told her that they would do a call with her.
I have a lot of sympathy for Meghan. Watching from afar as this all played out and basically having no voice in the room.
The conversation on the phone is going to be the most difficult part of the whole negotiations, because
one of the stories that came out was Meghan dialing in from California, but absolutely firmly that was not going to happen, even if that's what Harry wanted. They had no way of knowing who else would have been in the room with Meghan. Would there have been someone making notes? They simply couldn't allow that.
But I think the real reason was because they all knew that Meghan was probably smarter, brighter, had a more linear view of where she and Harry were going and what they wanted. And they probably thought that they would get a better outcome with just Harry.
Harry's determined to see if there has been a conspiracy against him. In the summit, the Queen's private secretary had told Harry that the reason for printing a draft of just one option is that none of the printers at Sandringham are working. Harry wants to find out if this is true.
As he gets closer to the room, he hears a printer working. Hello, is that working?
Yes, Your Royal Highness.
You're saying that's not broken?
That?
It's indestructible, sir. It'd been stitched up. The jig was up. The decisions have been made before the meeting ever really started.
That would have just confirmed what his fears, really. And they'd already decided what the outcome was going to be, that it was going to be presented to the public, and he had no say.
They weren't making it up when they were talking about there being a security threat.
It isn't just online that Harry and Meghan are attacked. In 2018, less than 2 years before the summit, a letter is sent.
It was addressed to them, accompanied by a racist diatribe against Meghan. Inside was a suspicious white powder.
It looked like an anthrax attack. Actually, it turned out, thankfully, obviously, not to be anthrax.
So they weren't making it up when they were talking about there being a security threat.
Now, if you've been with me for long enough, you'll know that I've always said that the institution will slowly crumble after Queen Elizabeth's death. And I made those statements purely based on how I saw Meghan being treated by the establishment. Quite frankly, many members of the British media are, as far as I'm concerned, practicing occultists, as they, on a daily basis, conjure up lies and craft their narrative to drip-feed poison into the public's consciousness because they fear the undeniable power of a 44-year-old biracial, accomplished and self-assured woman who completely upstaged the entire royal family without even trying. These same members of the British media are also extremely dumb, because just like in the Big Brother house, they forget they are being watched by Commonwealth countries whose citizens strongly identify and relate to this same biracial, accomplished and self-assured woman. And even though the ill treatment of the Duchess of Sussex may not necessarily form the basis of their decision, one by one Commonwealth nations are voting with their feet and saying they no longer want to be ruled by a colonial entity which has no relevance for them in the 21st century. Just like Barbados, it would appear that Grenada has had enough of the foolishness. This article is from The Guardian, published on the 8th of August 2025, and the headline reads, Grenada government and opposition join forces to drop oath of allegiance to King Charles. Move comes amid calls for reparations for slavery and King's removal as head of state of Caribbean country. The government and opposition in the Caribbean island of Grenada have joined forces to drop the oath of allegiance to the British Crown amid growing calls to remove King Charles as the country's head of state. A statement from the government announcing the move said that, in a commendable display of national unity, the country's parliament had agreed bills to amend the country's constitution. The change will remove the words His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors from the Pledge of Allegiance and replace them with Grenada. In the statement, Grenada's Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell said, "The unanimous support for this amendment demonstrates our shared commitment to national identity and constitutional progress, and while we may differ on many issues, today we stand together in affirming that our allegiance belongs to Grenada and its people." Later he told local media, "I don't think anyone in their right mind will expect me or any future Prime Minister of Grenada, on taking the oath of office to serve them, that I should be swearing allegiance to King Charles, his heirs and successor." He added, "What is it about King Charles that is superior to me, that requires me not to swear allegiance to the people of Grenada, but to him?" The Prime Minister added, "Sovereign countries have excellent bilateral relations. That doesn't mean that you have to swear allegiance to the head of state of another foreign country. This only happened," he pointed out, "because Grenada was a former British colony and not because it was voted on by Grenadians." The Governor-General, Dame Cecile La Grenade, the Crown's representative in Grenada, assented to the two pieces of legislation to amend the oath after they were approved in both the lower and upper houses of Parliament. Grenada's Tourism and Culture Minister, Adrian Thomas, said the move was a response to decades of calls from Grenadians to change the oath, setting it amid a broader trend to decolonise society, assert the country's independence and reform the constitution. He said, "Although we still have many institutions like the Royal Prison, the Royal Grenada Police Force, we are on the road to decolonising our society, and apart from the oath of allegiance, we will be doing much more in years to come." On the streets of St George's, communications consultant Shireen Thomas Isaac said the change was long overdue. "We're independent. I think that's a mark of our sovereignty. We have to follow the true course of what independence means for our region," she said. The change to the oath comes as the Grenada Reparations Commission vowed to step up the pursuit of an apology and reparations from the monarch and intensify calls for the removal of King Charles as the country's head of state after new research revealed that George IV personally profited from slavery on the Caribbean island. Ali Gill, the head of the commission, thanked Francis Alexis, a former Attorney General and government minister, for lobbying for the change, which he described as one small step in the further deconstruction of a new colonialism process. Gill said, "We need to strengthen the lobby in Grenada to get rid of the king as head of state. The royal family is not fit and proper to be the head of state of a country where they have directly profited from slavery. We need to move to republicanism immediately." Additionally, the New York Times has reiterated the point I made earlier about the institution being watched closely, and how history will reflect on this chapter of the institution's existence.
Morning friends, happy Wednesday. New York Times article accuses Prince William of being work shy. Wonder if the journalists have looked at my videos. One of my hashtags is work shy William, and claims Charles's rift with Prince Harry will reflect badly on the King's legacy. Well, these aren't claims. It's 2025. The public and billions of people around the world walk around with a smartphone in their pocket. Digital media is the new media, and the evidence is there. The evidence is there for everyone to see. This isn't accusations or claims. These are facts. Everybody knows what's happening between Charles and Harry. And I've got to say, from the social group that I'm in and this TikTok channel, the majority of people have empathy for Harry, not the establishment, and therefore are on Harry's side. In terms of William and Kate being lazy, well, we all know how many holidays they take and how little work they do. So again, that's fact. You can't deny it. Times need to change. The public are aware digital media is changing the future of civilization because the evidence can be shared amongst billions of people for free in 20 seconds. Everybody needs to get their head around this. The British non-working royal family have been unable to do it. They've had 2 decades to get their heads around smartphones, and they still cannot do it. They refuse to change. They want to remain in their privileged position, doing little and taking a lot. If they do not change, it's game over. No one is interested in them at the moment, and their popularity has declined sharply over the last 5 years. In the next 5 years, their popularity could become zero. Literally. I'm not saying we'll have scenes like in France where the royal family are, if you know what I mean. But the relevance is the most important metric, right? The relevance to the public that pay for them is at an all-time low. Whatever the traditional media say, the relevance to the public, to the real public, is at an all-time low. If it gets any lower, people are going to say, we want something new.
Furthermore, regular people who merely had a surface-level interest in the royal family only became fully invested royal watchers when Meghan and Harry's relationship became public and they observed Meghan's ill treatment.
Before Meghan Sussex stepped onto the scene, I had a People magazine level interest in the royal family. That is, you know, I watched Will and Kate's wedding the next day, all the clips, and I was so fascinated by her dress. And when they said that they were going to have kids, I was happy for them because it's like, oh, this is a young family literally trying to make do. Basically, all I knew about the royal family was from People magazine, and I trusted and believed that propaganda. Now, around that time, The Crown came out, and I started watching it. And a couple things that you'll get from The Crown is, one, these people hate divorce, okay? The Queen was like really freaky about divorce. She did not want her sister to marry a divorced man, the love of Margaret's life, and she kept them apart because he was divorced. And then, of course, all of the horror and shame around the Charles and Diana divorce. The second thing that you really get from The Crown is how important the news is to all of these people and how petty they are about it. So they are looking at every headline every day to see what the press is saying about them. So when it was rumored that Harry was dating a divorced American woman, I was like, oh, this is really interesting, especially if they allow this to go down, considering their history with divorced American women. When Harry basically confirmed that he was dating her and was in love with her with that press release where he told the press to stop saying racist things about her, I was like, oh, I'm really interested now. And the fact that she was biracial, I thought this could only be a good thing for the royal family. It will show that they are modernizing and updating who they have always been in the past, which is colonizers. I got up early to watch that wedding because I was really interested. This is our divorced American princess, and she's gorgeous and charming. And before the wedding, things seemed really good. They had the Fab Four, and their star, all of them, was on the rise. So after the wedding, when things started to devolve, that's when I started to have an obsession about the way that this family operates. Because they were just proving the crown right, that they are petty, jealous, insecure people that couldn't handle Meghan and Harry becoming more popular than they are. That goes for Charles, Camilla, William, and Kate.
Let's look at another individual who had absolutely no idea how intensely hot the Sussex fire would be.
So now that the Charity Commission has found that Sophie Chadewunka's allegations of systemic bullying, harassment, misogyny, misogynoir, corruption are unsubstantiated and false, I have one question and one question only. Has Dr. Sophie Chadewunka handed in her resignation as chair of Sentebale? If not, what's the hold up? Yes. I know that she's allowed to remain. But seriously, for shame. Surely her position is now untenable. So the Charity Commission found no evidence of widespread or systemic bullying, harassment, misogyny, or misogyny at Sentebale, which means they found no evidence of such misconduct by the patrons, Prince Harry and Prince Cecil, or by the former trustees. Now bear in mind that these were her grounds and basis for complaint and her grounds to the public to prove that she has the best interest of the charity at heart and best head it. So I ask, if these grounds are now proven to be false, her position surely is untenable. So the charity also found that the internal dispute at Sentebale severely impacted the charity's reputation. I agree, but I'll put to you that the reason for the internal dispute is Sophie Chadewunka. It's clear that the former trustees lost confidence in her, didn't like the direction she was taking as chair, asked her to resign, she pushed back, which is well within her right. But the patrons supported the former trustees, and it blew up into a big old internal dispute, which these things happen. So to me, the existence of the dispute is neither here nor there. People get on each other's nerves, okay? But the bottom line here is that the complaints and grounds she gave don't exist. So how can she possibly remain as chair? The sense isn't making sense. The maths isn't matching. With all these allegations being found to be false, Sophie Chadewunka has brought herself into disrepute, brought the charity into disrepute, and has become the liability and burden to Sentebale that she claimed Prince Harry was. So explain to me how she can remain as chair. I agree with the charity criticizing both sides that the public blow-up of this internal dispute could have been handled so much better, but it doesn't change the principal issue that the allegations she's made have been proven to be false. The commission pointed out lack of clarity, confusion in delegations to the chair, which allowed for misunderstandings. But I'll tell you right now, in that Sky News interview, Sophie Chadewunka came across to me as confused about what her role as chair is. She was talking like she was the owner, using proprietary language, and like she's the CEO running the place, neither of which is the role of the chair. She came across as though this was a hostile takeover. I get why Harry is doing this, but why should Prince Harry walk away after 20 plus years of love and sweat, and she remains after she's been proven wrong?
Now, Blind Freddie could see that Harry was not guilty of what this woman accused him of. Blind Freddie could also see that this wasn't a completely impartial report, because why were there no questions raised about the mismanagement of funds? And we know who was responsible for that, don't we? Sentebale was running smoothly until this woman got her claws into it. So why are these people behaving as though she was not the instigator of this saga? It would appear that William the Puppet Master has had some influence, given that his good buddy Ian Rawlinson became a trustee on the day Harry stepped down from the charity. Sentimentally, this is no doubt a huge blow to Harry, But maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because he is now at liberty to set up a new charity, but it would be a really good idea to have it registered in the US, where William and his minions, Sophie and Ian, can't get their grimy hands on it. So the fundamental question is, was this clumsy takedown effort really worth it? Please do not express surprise, guys, if the next charity scandal you hear about is in relation to Invictus, because Robert Jobson has already told us that William is extremely jealous of the foundation's undeniable success. That Sussex fire is still burning intensely when it comes to Meghan's business.
Vogue reviewed Meghan's rosé. Not a blogger, not a stan account, Vogue. And to make sure it wasn't just celebrity hype, they brought in a world-class sommelier to give it a no-nonsense proper taste test. Let's break this down. Meghan's lifestyle brand, as ever, quietly announced the release of their 2024 Napa Valley Rosé back in June. No massive press tour, no influencer rollout, just a newsletter and a website drop. And yet, the minute it went live, gone. The first round sold out in less than 60 minutes. Then she did a second drop August 5th, which tells you something. Whether people love her or love to hate her, they're paying attention. But here's what matters. It's actually good. This is where Vogue steps in. They had Jordan Salcedo, an award-winning sommelier who's led wine programs for 11 Madison Park, and Momo Fuku. Taste it. Like, this is someone who spent her career analyzing thousands of wines, not fangirling over royal gossip. And her verdict? It's legit. She didn't call it revolutionary, but she did call it well-crafted. Thoughtful, a wine that tastes like it was made to last longer than the average celebrity attention span. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't gimmicky, it wasn't trying to be cute for Instagram, it was made like actual wine. So here's the thing, Meghan didn't just slap her name on the bottle, she launched a product with actual credibility, and Vogue co-signed it. Critically respected and quietly dominating. As ever isn't just a brand name, it's a statement.
Now, earlier I said that there are members of the media who are actually dumb. Because you'd have to be dumb if you continue to behave as though Harry and Meghan only left the UK yesterday and are desperately struggling like you hoped they would. You'd have to be dumb if you can't see that in their charitable endeavours, as well as their commercial endeavours, Harry and Meghan are an absolute powerhouse. You would have to be dumb if you think that they'd give up a life where they enjoy success, not just financially, but they enjoy good health, they enjoy seeing their kids free and flourishing, and they enjoy unencumbered, meaningful, personal and professional relationships. You would have to be extremely dumb not to realise that by treating Harry like an inconvenient spare part with no common sense, that you actually ignited a fire that will be extremely difficult to extinguish. A fire that could potentially expose a very bare landscape for Charles's successors if the remaining Commonwealth nations decide to take back their sovereignty and no longer defer to a head of state who has as much time for them as he has for his biracial, accomplished and self-assured daughter-in-law. So guys, I am in the car because I need to go and pick up some food. My daughter's actually here visiting from the States. So I've got to quickly go and pick up a Chinese takeaway and then come back, and we're going to plan what we're going to do for my birthday, which is on the day after this video uploads. So I'm going to keep this brief. So carrying on from media types who are dumb. I'm not going to say stupid, I'm going to say dumb. That's what I have reduced them to. Andrew Lowney is not a name I'm familiar with. You may already know that he is the guy who's written a book about Andrew. I'm not his PR person, so I'm not going to say what the title of the book is. I'm sure you know. And what struck me, guys, is that no one, absolutely no one would have known about this book if Harry's name hadn't been mentioned. And why I say that this guy is dumb is because he references an incident, a physical altercation between Harry and his uncle in relation to something derogatory that was said about Meghan. Okay, so far. Until we learn that this incident was supposed to have taken place in 2013. 2013, when Harry and Meghan had no knowledge of each other. No relationship, no communication, nothing. However, this man, in my humble opinion, is so dumb. This Andrew Lowney is so dumb because it's been pointed out to him that his timelines are off, but he insists that he's got reliable sources or a reliable source, and he's not going to back down. So what does that tell you guys? What it tells me is that firstly, these vultures cannot gain any publicity without putting their mouth on Harry and Meghan in terms of mentioning their names. This is what Boris Johnson did, I think it was last year. And there was this, all these interviews surrounding him speaking to Harry, asking him to reconsider leaving the UK. You've not heard about that book since its release. You will not hear about this Andrew Lowney book after maybe a couple of weeks, because no one is interested. I'm not interested in hearing about Andrew. I don't care. I don't care about what the Yorks do. I only care that this man has used Harry's name in such a way that Harry has had to come out and refute these claims. But people still believe it. This is what makes me laugh. People still believe what this man has written. There's so much that has gone on this week. It's hard to sort of pinpoint every single thing. And that's why I sort of deviated away from what everyone else is talking about. And I just wanted to kind of turn my attention to what's happening with the Commonwealth, because people just don't believe someone like me when I say that this will be the end of the monarchy. One by one, these Commonwealth countries are seeing how useless it is to have a colonial head of state. What do they represent for these Commonwealth countries? It's a constant reminder that the mindset of the British monarchy has not changed. As I've said in previous videos, the Commonwealth is the British Empire by a different name. And people want to hang on to the royal family as much as possible because the royal family represent the British Empire. It has to come to an end at some stage. And I applaud Grenada for making this step. As it was said in that article, it was long overdue. It's going to be very interesting over the next few years to see what happens, given that William has said that he does not want to be head of the Commonwealth when he becomes king. And as I've said, the landscape will be very bare, especially when it comes to, let me project myself ahead. When it comes to George's time, what is he going to be ruling over? What state will Britain be in when the Commonwealth has gone? What will be the purpose of this monarchy if they only have the United Kingdom to rule over? Not that they rule anything. They don't rule anything. It's an outdated institution. I'm not a staunch Republican in terms of get rid of the monarchy. It doesn't, does it affect my life on a daily basis whether they're here or not? I guess to a certain degree because we're paying for them. But if they're not serving any purpose, why are we paying for them? Why are we paying for them, please? And this is a question that many people have in the UK. Why are we paying for them? This is not Hans Christian Andersen, fairy tale, Prince, Princess, King and Queen. This is real life, and they are draining us as far as I'm concerned. They're not a good return on our investment. Some may disagree. I actually don't care. That's how I feel about it. They're not, they're just ticking boxes. They're not really visible. They don't change the lives of people, masses of people in this country. We still have children living below the poverty line. We still have children who only have one meal a day, and that's only during school term time. Outside of school, these kids who come from low income backgrounds, low income families, they are barely eating, they are barely surviving. But you've got William with his, one week he's for homelessness, the next week he wants to solve the problem in the Middle East, the next week he's wanting to tackle climate change, and then the next week he's on holiday. Do something constructive, Prince and Princess of Wales, if you're so big and bold. Stop trying to ride on the coattails of Harry and Meghan and surprise us and actually do something constructive and useful so that people will have respect for you, because even your supporters, they're starting to question what you guys are doing. Anyway, guys, that's my rant, okay, because I need to pick up this food. So if your thoughts were provoked in any way, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and you shall catch me in the next video.